Recording in progress.
All right, we'll get this meeting started. Thank you everyone for being here, and those that are online are being streamed. We're glad to have everybody here. My name is Mayor Vanderwood, and I'll call this meeting to order for our West Haven City Council meeting. Today's February 15th, 2023 at 6:03 p.m. And hope everybody had a wonderful, happy Valentine's Day yesterday and enjoyed. It was fun for us. We enjoyed. And I think we've got a great council meeting coming up. We've got our staff here, our council is all here, and we appreciate everybody being here. So we'll go ahead with our opening ceremonies. We'll get started with our Pledge of Allegiance given by our council member Saunders, and our prayer or moment of silence with council member Schwab.
Please join me in repeating the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will you please join me in a moment of silence? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Saunders and Councilmember Schwab. We'll move forward with our item 3, our public presentation. This is residents attending the meeting will have an allotted 2 minutes to express a concern or ask a question about any issue that is not on the agenda. No action can or will be taken on any issues that are presented. Do we have anybody who would like to come forward? Please just state your name and address.
My name's Andy Davis. I live at 2210 South, 2200 West. Really, I'm coming for some clarification and maybe a little education about the land use and development process. Specifically, this last week with Planning Commission, there was an item before them for preliminary plat for the Kosoff property, which is the patio homes we've all been involved with recently. Specifically, I would like to see the trail completed as the general plan shows. And in the Planning Commission meeting, I don't know all the details. I could only hear a little bit as I was traveling home, but a statement was made that we cannot require them to put the trail in. I'm asking if that's really the case, if we can or cannot. If we cannot, I can accept that. If the city can do that, my question is, why are we not doing that? In every meeting, since Mr. Kosoff presented the rezone of his property, the trail has been brought up. In fact, the Planning Commission recommended approval to your body for rezone with the trail included. Unfortunately, the minutes for City Council meeting seem to be missing. I looked for them last night, couldn't find them. It does have the vote, but there's no discussion about it. So I guess my question is, can we require that? And if we can, why are we not? Or can we just not require that in a new development as part of our general plan?
So thank you for asking the question on there. Those will be some things that, for right now for us to go into and try and answer that. We'll be probably discussing that more in the near future. And I think you could probably get in touch with the city manager on that. That might be the best answer. And then he could point you in the right direction on what our ordinances are and everything, so we can. The reason I'm a little frustrated is I see a big disconnect. For example, the LKL property on 2200 that's currently under construction, the city asked them to put the trail in. It is on their approved final site plan with the word trail on the site plan. The city bought property at the end of the Kosoff property by the canal for the specific purpose of connecting this trail. I'm really confused and a little frustrated, honestly. And so that's what I'm looking for. Like I say, every meeting involved with that property has been, there's been some type of discussion about the trail. And there seems to be great pushback for some reason. It's very frustrating, so. Well, thank you. Is there anything else?
Nope, that was
Thanks
it.
for bringing it to our attention. We'll look into it and maybe we can get back to you on that. Would that be okay?
Thank you.
Can I also recommend, Mr. Davis, if you don't mind sending an email to each of the council members with your concern, makes it a lot easier for us to respond individually that way.
You bet.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we'll move forward. The next item on here is item number 4, upcoming events. We have our senior lunch bunch that'll be on February 22nd at 11:30 a.m. We're looking forward to another great turnout on that. I don't have the food on there quite yet, but we're getting close to that one. And then we also have our Easter egg hunt on April 8th that we're just planning in advance. That'll be 9 a.m. To schedule around some of the other cities that are there as well. That like to hold these events. We want to be in place and make sure the kids get plenty of fun things to do. Is there anything else, upcoming events from the council? Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, our council updates. Is there any council updates that we need to make the public aware? Pretty quiet tonight. Okay,
I can.
Terry's
Arts
got one.
Council.
you got one?
The Arts Council has settled on some items that they're going to use for their applying for the smaller grants. So they've chosen some events and different things. They're pretty excited to move forward.
Great. That'll be good. That's great. We'll also be looking very, well, with a lot of intent, trying to make sure we get some of our other community committees filled up. So if there's anybody out there that's looking for to volunteer into those committees, we'd love to have you involved with those. We'll move on to item number 6 on here, action on our consent agenda. We have item A, our city council minutes that were held on February 1st of 2023. And item B is Rock Hard Excavating LLC for $62,784. Is there any questions on the consent agenda?
Would move to approve items A and B on the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council? We'll do a roll call. Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
Councilmember Saunders,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab, and Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Motion moves forward with our consent agenda. Thank you for that. We move on to item number 7, presentation of Weber County Sheriff. We have Chief Gand here and Lieutenant Jeffries. We're glad to have you here, and we appreciate Lieutenant Jeffries being here on our council meetings about every time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. So this is just kind of an overview of what the sheriff's office has done and some of the things for West Haven. I don't know if it's on your guys' screen or not.
We're having technical difficulties, so I just gave him a hard copy.
That'll work as well. So this first slide is about some of the community events that the sheriff's office has either hosted or been a part of. The first one is we did a trunk or treat this year on October 19th. We hosted a first annual trunk or treat held at the sheriff's office. It was a huge event with a huge turnout. Had several stations with motors, emergency management, patrol, and CSI. The next one is a Shop with a Hero, which we've done for quite a few years going on, where we host the Shop with a Hero event, breakfast at the Washington Heights church, and shopping at the Riverdale Walmart. Over 90 kids participated in that one. A Christmas event that happened on December 7th, hosted another first annual Christmas event at the fairgrounds. Had pictures with Santa's sleigh, which we actually used one of the search and rescue snowcats and some motors and things to make a sleigh out of it. It was kind of a big success for that. Families from all over the county came out to that one and enjoyed hot chocolate candy. And then we had a Christmas luncheon that the sheriff put on to invite an appreciation for the employees and then some of the partners of the sheriff's office. And then we also participate in your guys' West Haven Day celebration with the multiple days out there, and then the West Haven Touch a Truck. And we'll move on to some of the other department highlights. This is gonna go over some of the different areas we have.
Can I just make a comment really quick before we move on the events? First off, love that you guys do this. But also, if there's anything that city leaders can help with in these, let us know. We would love to support that.
Okay.
Love that you guys are doing this.
Yeah, and we'll definitely reach out in the future. The Halloween thing and the Christmas thing were kind of short notice on, hey,
Yeah,
what could we
let's-
do? And it just developed real quick. So we'll definitely
Yeah,
reach out in
sure,
the future
sure.
to get participation if you guys would like to. So,
Sure, and we'd love to help promote that as well on our pages, so.
nice. Moving forward, our crime reduction unit, which we call the CRU, SCU, the street crimes. Just kind of an overview of what they've done. They had a total 164 working days, which is them on the street, not training, vacation days, things like that. Had a total of 224 cases. There were 243 arrests for an average of about 1.48 a day. They had 915 criminal charges with 599 misdemeanors and 316 felonies. They served a total of 287 arrest warrants, served 35 search warrants during the year, and seized a total of 50 illegal firearms. They also seized over 100 pounds of methamphetamine, 25 pounds of heroin, and over 10,000 fentanyl pills.
So this is in the county, not necessarily in West Haven.
That one's
Thank
kind
you.
of all over.
All right,
lot
just
of their
wanted to make
work-
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't happen in West Haven. No.
The Washington
A
Terrace.
lot of their
5
work
pounds
is
of
done in West
fentanyl.
Haven, but this is a total for
This
that unit.
is
in
all
different
Pleasant
areas.
View, obviously, and Hooper.
And the kind of the impressive thing with that group is there's 3 of them. There's 1 sergeant and 2 deputies that are out doing that. They have partnered with some different agencies to get some extra manpower, like APMP, when they go out after fugitives and things like that. So it's pretty impressive for a small group to put up those numbers. Also, we've had a drone program. It's kind of come on a lot stronger in the last year. Just this last year, we had 32 deployments, and that is just West Haven on that number. Overall, we've had more of that, but some of the cases that they use the drones on are extra patrols, suspicious circumstances, trespassings, traffic accidents, and warrant executions as well. Next one would be the flock cameras, which there's 3 in West Haven now that are up and running. I believe the other 2 are kind of in a limbo phase from what I've been told. With that, we've recovered 16 stolen vehicles, estimated value of $294,750. Recovered over 2,500 worth of stolen property and 19 felony arrests. Several grams of illegal narcotics have been seized along with those cases due to the flock cameras. And then most recent thing we've implemented is a live 911 system. It's been purchased and implemented, has been successful in helping deputies arrive to calls sometimes before they've been dispatched through the dispatch center. In 2 cases so far, and it's only been a couple weeks we've been up and running. We've had actually the same deputy take part in doing CPR on 2 different people that saved their lives.
So live 911, is that where you guys are hearing the call as it goes into dispatch? That's incredible.
Yes. Yeah, so there's a delay with calls that go into dispatch. If you're not familiar with how that works, if you call 911, goes into dispatch, that call taker starts typing up what they're hearing. They transfer that to the other dispatcher who gets on the radio to our guys. All of that obviously takes time. Now with this system, we can hear the deputies as they're driving around, and they've got a radius that they'll hear the calls that are in their radius. So it comes through straight to their computer. They can hear the call. They can hear how distressed the people are, and hear all that information firsthand instead of the interpretation of the dispatcher relaying that through essentially two different people. So we think it's going to be pretty cool going forward.
Oh, yeah, I can
It already has been, so.
already picture the benefits of that. I think that's great.
Then this next slide's just an overall calls for service. I broke it down into between 2021 and 2022 each month. You did have an increase from 21 to 22. 21 you had 9,375, and then 2022 there was 10,132.
This is just for West Haven or the entire
That's
county?
just West Haven.
And when you say calls, does this also mean like people being pulled over? Is that considered a call?
This one would probably have that in there with
Okay.
the other stats where we work on the contract and all that. Some of that stuff's taken out. This one would probably be everything.
Okay.
I'm not super familiar with running it. I ran the numbers myself, so some could be wrong because I'm not the professional on the number side of it.
It's okay to admit when you might be wrong.
And then the other little graph at the bottom, we call it the nature groups. You can see at the bottom there's 911, crimes against persons, drug violations, property crimes, traffic accidents, and traffic stops. You can see that a lot of those have gone, and those again are between 2021 and 2022. There's been a rise in almost every category there. The traffic stops went up quite a bit, which implementation of the traffic unit kind of helped with those, and we'll go into some of those. The next slide, in those categories where I have the graph, that next slide gives you what's in each of those. So property crimes, all those things are part of those numbers, if that makes sense.
Can I ask a question? So on the reports that we get every week, under the disposition, it says RMK. What does that stand
That
for?
would be remarks.
Remarks,
So
okay.
If
I
it
was like,
says
okay, I'm trying to
closed or
figure it out.
report, they just wrote remarks on it. It wasn't something that rose that they needed a full report on. So they
Okay,
wrote
so we don't
remarks
see
and-
those remarks. Okay, I was trying to figure out what disposition that was, so thank you.
Now, one other comment too, when we went through our quarterly with the sheriff's department, had our meeting with them, I really appreciated too the fact that they are pulling over people to give them warnings, not so much tickets all the time, but they're pulling people over and just saying, hey, to help provide a benefit to stop speeding, trying to slow people down a little bit to prevent accidents. And I thought that was really helpful. So that was one of the reasons they brought up in the meeting.
Yeah.
That it's really increased, is that they are being a little more proactive with that.
How many
And I
personal
should've-
experiences do you have with that, Mayor?
Just one so far, but it was well worth it. I just didn't stop completely to stop sign. they
And I
pulled me
probably
over.
should have put a little slide of that because we do have all the traffic stops that were listed on there. When you go down we can break it down into the citations.
You may have
and the
mentioned it
majority are
already,
warnings.
but are these nature groups, is this for West Haven, just West Haven?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As well. Thanks.
Tried to do the majority of it just West Haven. Some
Okay.
of it was incorporating all of it with.
We're just glad the first
Looks like
page
there's some
wasn't
categories
West
that are
Haven.
down, so that's good. They're
And then with
positive ones. So.
sorry. With that, this last one, has a graph of where all the traffic stops were made over the year. And with the traffic unit, it was only created in May of 2022. It's a 4-person unit, comprised of a corporal and 3 deputies with the sergeant that oversees it. They're also part of a Metro crash team that can be called out for accident reconstruction and major injuries / fatal accidents, where they come out and they can reconstruct the whole thing and help out. And that's it for me. If there's any questions on any of that stuff.
Any
Great
questions,
rep-
council?
No, that's a great report. Thank you for that.
And if
Appreciate
there's
it.
anything you guys would like to see more of on the next one, just shoot me an email and tried to hit the highlights. You guys see the daily numbers and random stuff. I didn't want to hit you with straight numbers
You know what
on
I
everything.
would like to see is maybe having Sergeant Lewis come in, and he's still over street crimes, right? If maybe he can come in at some point and give us a little bit of a report about how that area is now compared to how it was when the street crimes unit first started. That would be probably some good information to have. With, like, maybe just see what the improvements are over there.
Yeah.
I've seen it personally, but it's been a while, and I would love to hear from him on that.
And like you said, I've seen the difference myself. I can't give you the exact numbers down there, but it's been cleaned up a lot off of, if we're talking West 21st Street for those that don't know, but it's been cleaned up a lot compared to what it used to be. So, but yeah, we can arrange that.
Yeah, I would love to hear from the experts out there. So,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions for the Sheriff's Department?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to item number 8 on here. This is our presentation for the Weber mosquito abatement. I've asked Mr. Smith to come by and give us an update. I don't think in the time I've been on the council we've ever had you present. Have we ever had that happen?
Just in pre-council meeting, we've discussed, but not an actual council meeting.
Well, this is an important meeting right here, so we're anxious to hear from you, especially this time of year on mosquitoes.
I appreciate it, Mayor and Council, an opportunity to discuss as far as mosquito abatement district. You'll be happy to hear that right now with winter time, the mosquitoes are down. And just to kind of give you a little bit of an overlay as far as a Board of Trustee member, our role in helping out with the district. So
How long have you been on the board?
several years.
Several years.
Can you give us a number? You know about how many years you've
It
been
was
on?
pre-beard,
It
It's-
was
it's
pre-beard,
wasn't it?
shorter beard.
Shorter beard, it fluctuates. So as far as my purpose, as far as being a representative for the city, here in our county, we have a representative from every city that constitutes or forms the Board of Trustees. And for those that are not in an actual city, they have a representative from the county themselves. So there's a county commission that sits on this board. And so part of just to kind of give you a brief overview as far as our general guidelines, we oversee the conduct of the district's business. We receive, as a Board of Trustee member, we have initial and annual training that we perform. We select and make sure that we retain a competent management group, so the district manager, assistant manager, and those employees that report to them. And we work with the management as far as the district's long and short-term objectives and goals. And we also make sure that we adhere to and adopt policies that are in legal and sound manner. We monitor operations to ensure that the district is operating in compliance with laws and policies. We keep the board informed as far as changes in law and practices that could affect the district, and a lot of this is with the assistance of our representing attorney. We oversee the district's performance and effectiveness in the property delivery of services and ensure that board meetings are conducted and prescribed as per law. Now, to kind of give you a brief summary of this past year, 2022 was actually, to say the least, a good year for killing of mosquitoes. As a whole, the state of Utah, we saw fewer cases as far as reported mosquito pools infected with West Nile virus, and the number of fever cases were reported throughout the state were 0. For the state of Utah, there were a total of 5 neuroinvasive cases, one unfortunately which was here in Weber County, but my understanding is the individual who actually caught it was in a different county when they were contracted West Nile virus. A total of only 5 pools throughout our county reported positive for West Nile virus. Now that kind of brings up also as far as spray requests. Now with West Haven, typically what we'll see is West Haven and the other cities further west, like Far West, Harrisville, Hooper, a lot of these outlying cities that are closer to the lake, we'll see higher counts as far as incoming calls. This past year, West Haven was as far as the 4th highest. But when you do a breakdown of that, not all of them are for nuisance mosquitoes. Approximately 12 to 15% are calls coming in because someone has a special event, whether it be outdoor wedding, some type of birthday parties where they're making special requests. There also is a small percentage of those that request where they, for example, have ornamental pools to have mosquito fish brought in to help reduce the number of mosquitoes that may be breeding in their water. Now, go back to the district itself, we do have a district manager and assistant manager who help oversee the operations. And then there's the indoor staff, and then there's full-time and seasonal workers. So seasonal workers are brought in typically the beginning of May and work through the end of August. So you may see some of them out there working. There are different methods that they have used to help, one, cost saving for the county. Now, I helped put forth and gave several recommendations where we are a steward of taxpayer money. We want to make sure that we're getting the best cost out there and reducing expenditures. This past year, I did help push for a couple of items which helped save the city money, or the county money. One was revisiting as far as the trash with waste management, and they were able to reduce the costs significantly on how much we were being charged. The other is in different forms of investments, where there's a percentage of money that's put in as far as a CD at local financial institutions. And this past year, I did point out to the secretary that as the CD matured, that the rates actually went up by 4-fold. And so they were able to lock in at a higher rate. Now, one thing that we have implemented over the past year, actually the past couple of years, several things have occurred here at the county level, which has actually been a benefit to us. One, there was an extension on the building, which was one of the long-term projects that we were able to have the funding set aside, so we did not have to increase any taxes on the citizens. Part of that extension on the building brought in to where we could do a lot of our in-house testing rather than having to send it off to the state. And this is where we're testing the mosquitoes and the different traps that we have throughout the county, some of which are also located here in West Haven. Typically, when we had to send these tests off to the state, the turnaround was on average 5 days. And so it took 5 days from the time those tests went off before we got results to find out whether or not that we had a hot spot for West Nile virus. And at that point, it could have blown up. Whereas here, we're able to test it in-house, have the results within 24 hours, and out treating these areas. So we're actually able to knock down a lot of these areas that may potentially have hot spots.
So Dave, are there federal requirements or state requirements as to how much you test or the areas you test?
No,
How do you decide?
They'll go out and they have their different locations, and they'll pull those locations and they'll go in and they can run as many tests as they want. It's just a matter of they're going to run those tests from the different traps that they pull. They're going to test it to see, is the virus present? And if so, they can run a secondary test because in case there was a false positive. At that point, they can determine, based on the location, is it something that we need to have a plane go out and fog the area, or if it's an area that can be sprayed on a fogger truck, or if it has to be an area that has to go out and be sprayed by hand. Now, it also presents where the district has been able to save money, because years ago, they had a plane, and the cost of insurance, the cost of maintenance, it was an older, like 30-plus-year-old plane. And it was costing more money to keep it operational, and the district just thought, at this point, it wasn't feasible. So we looked at contracting out with VDCI, who operates out of the Ogden Airport. And so that's where they lease the hangar from the district. That's where we store chemical, and they're able to go out, and they do two types of treatment. Either they're going to do adulticide, which is where they're spraying droplets for flying adults, or they have what's called a larvicide, where they're dropping granules. And so there's different types of chemicals that they're using to treat, as far as treating mosquitoes. Now, other than the contracted, the district has purchased a drone and is on the budget this year to purchase a second drone, where they're able to treat those areas that have either odd boundaries and where it would be cost effective to do it with the drone versus the plane. The plane's just going to run a straight path and maybe dropping chemical in an area that's not feasible. And so we saw that within the first year, this drone actually paid for itself by the amount that we saved in chemical and man hours alone. And so the district manager has been doing a great job. We have a new manager. He's been in, going on his third year now. He's been actually with the district over 25 years. He understands the area, he has the respect of the employees that work with them, and does a great job to keep things within budget.
Great.
And as far as the training, the district manager, system manager, and oftentimes the employees, they do have different trainings throughout the year. As a board of trustee, we have our annual training held in the fall. After most of the mosquito season's over, we typically meet in October, where we have 2.5 days of meetings. They bring in professionals across the U.S. First day, the first evening is typically you get to meet the vendors, see what new products they have out. Mondays, typically, we have meetings in the morning where we hear keynote speakers, new products. You'd kind of be surprised that people got to laugh at that. This year's meeting, the keynote speaker was talking about kissing disease. No, it's not as far as humans kissing disease, but it's actually with one of the vectors, where bugs that cause Chagas, and that's why they call it kissing disease, because it's a bug that we typically don't see here in Utah, but it's in some of the southern states, and people confuse it with like box elder bugs because they kind of look like them, but they're actually bigger. And we receive our training also that afternoon, the following morning, where we have a representative from the state of Utah comes in and makes sure that we are in compliance. And it's just a refresher course or if there's been changes or updates from the state legislator to make sure that our district is in compliance with all new state laws.
Okay, council, do you have any questions for Dave?
I do. Sorry, where are you gonna
One at a time, please.
go? Do you guys educate the public? Do you have a program on spray requests or how to keep your yard to make things less mosquito attractive?
Actually, yes, you just brought up something that I failed to mention, and I'll hand them out here. We actually have one PSA that I'll be sending to the city here in the spring, and it talks about, if you can pass these around, it talks about the common backyard sources. So this is where we had it in the newsletter this past year in the city. We'll have it in the newsletter as far as this upcoming year. It shows people the different sources in their own yard, how they can help reduce or eliminate mosquitoes breeding in their yard. Now, it reminds me of a story. The district manager was telling us how an individual kept calling and complaining about heavy mosquitoes in his yard, regardless of how often they go through and spray. And they're like, well, we don't have water running over our lawn. And so they had a representative go out and they went around, looked around this guy's yard. Sure enough, the buckets were tipped over, stuff like that. And then they inquired about these flowering pots that he had on his back patio with the saucers underneath. And pointed out to the homeowner, he says, you've got mosquito breeding right there in the basin dish of your flower pots. So this PSA that I just passed around to you is a good reminder to let people know that mosquitoes will breed in any small amount of water that's stagnant, whether it be pets, food, water dishes, flower pots, old tires, buckets, anything that may be sitting around, mosquitoes will go in and breed in that. Now, one of the goals that we put out to the district manager for this year, in addition to this, is to inform the public. Now, they have it on their website as far as regulations on how to get rid of stuff, but also individuals, and we've seen an increase of individuals within the county, even here in West Haven, that like to do beekeeping. And so it is required that those individuals register their hives on an annual basis and the location of the hives so that they can be blocked off and not accidentally sprayed. That is a PSA that the district manager will be working on. So in addition to the backyard mosquito, elimination of mosquitoes, there will be a PSA on those for beekeepers and how to notify the district where their hives are so they're not getting sprayed.
Okay. Did you have a question? Any other questions? Perfect. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that.
I'll
That's
just finish
very
up with,
helpful.
they are on the job of killing mosquitoes.
Thanks.
Thank you
David.
so much.
Appreciate it.
You can kill more in my neighborhood.
We'll move on to item, number 9 on here. Action on Planning Commission meeting recommendations. This is a final subdivision approval for Wilson Cove Townhomes, Phase 2, approximately at 1625 South. It says Wilson Lane, it should be Wilson Drive. And it's got the parcel number there for Far-Built Homes, a little far. Did you want to talk about this at all?
I emailed the council earlier today and requested that this item be tabled. Through no fault of the applicant, the developer, some stuff has come up as far as what approvals were given, or in this case, not given. And we actually need to go back and go through the preliminary approval. I was able to speak with the developer before the meeting. That's why he's not here. And I kind of explained to him what's gone on and what we need to correct, and he's fine with it being tabled.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I'm ready for a motion.
Move to table item. Sorry, I should have been ready. This final subdivision approval of Wilson Cove Townhomes Phase 2 at approximately 1625 South Wilson Drive.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this will be tabled and we'll let him know. I imagine Sherry will get in touch with him for that when that time comes again. We'll move on to item number 10 on here. This is for a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public input on the use of the American Rescue Plan Act funds for up to $100,000 for the Riverbank Stabilization Project. So I'll take a motion to open this up for public hearing.
I move to enter public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we're open for a public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to bring up any discussion points on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll move out of public hearing. I need a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So we're out of public hearing now, and we'll move on to item number 12. And this is for a discussion and possible action on the 2023-24 budget process schedule.
I think we're on 11.
Miss
still.
out. Oh, here we go. Thank you. Action on, let me back up. Action on public hearing for action on resolution 06-2023, the use of American Rescue Plan Act funds up to $100,000 for the riverbank stabilization. Matt, did you want to take that?
This, as discussed previously in work session, we're looking to reinforce bank just north of where our Prevedel Park camping spaces are. We've proceeded to work with River Restoration on some emergency management plan and design on that. They should be finalizing that plan come this Friday, in which we will submit this to several different contractors to get a price and get a response on that. We do ask for the amount up to $100,000, so we can kind of cover that. We will notify the council on the amounts for the contract and who's going to go through that based on available schedule. We have received a little bit of good news. We had staff attend the county's emergency management meeting last week. The state hydrologist came and talked with us. While we are looking at near 200% snowpack in the mountains, one side effect of having drought is our reservoirs are very low. And so they will be looking to try to fill those up before letting more of the flow come down. So that gives us a little bit more time, but with that much snow, we will be getting some runoff that will that could potentially rip right into that bank as it's currently construed. So we're asking the council for approval on this action.
Did they set a time frame for when they think they're going to start letting it out?
Well, I mean, it all depends on when it starts melting. Several of the reservoirs are below 50%. Willard Bay is still at about 24% is what they reported. So there's a lot of capacity to hold up on that. But we realistically will start seeing that towards the end of March, first part of April, really. The impact on this bank and that as these fill up will likely be mid-April or whatnot before it starts hitting us.
That is a job I wouldn't want to have, to trying to decide when to start letting it out. That's got to be a horrible responsibility.
Yeah. Well, you know, after a couple of years of trying to keep it full, it's kind of nice to have
Try
the
and get
idea. We want to open gates instead of close docks.
Matt, is there any further discussion on this? Any questions? Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve action on resolution 06-2023, the use of American Rescue Plan Act funds up to $100,000 for riverbank restoration.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this. Councilmember Saunders?
Aye.
Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Councilmember Call?
Aye.
Councilmember Swap?
Aye.
And Councilmember Dixon.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved, and Matt, you can move forward with that. Move on to item 12, discussion and possible action on the 2023-2024 budget process schedule. Matt, did you want to take that one as well?
Yes, and this is one of those times I'm frustrated even more so about the AV thing. We do have a proposed budget process, which calendars out how we're looking to approach that. Several of the discussions with department heads and that have started already. But as you look at the schedule, we start addressing some of the issues come March 1st. So in 2 weeks when we meet, the council will start talking about revenue projections and addressing potential COLA and merit increases. Past that, with this schedule, it does schedule out 2 work sessions to meet with the budget on the tweener weeks when we're not meeting. This one takes advantage of March 29th, which is a 5th Wednesday, and then has another one set for April 12th. In the previous year, while these work sessions were very helpful and I think provided good level of transparency, we do have another one scheduled in for April 26th, just in case there's any additional discussions that need to be made, and not to rush the council through it. But it does set us up in order for the timing to provide the appropriate notices as required by state code. One of the things just to note as well is as we prepare to publish the tentative budget, one of the commitments on staff is to prepare a resident budget report, which will be an 8 to 12 page little flyer. We'll print limited copies, make them available, but also put it up on our website. This will be, I don't want to say budget for dummies, but you kind of get the gist of that. Get past the spreadsheets and have a little bit of narrative on what we're looking at instead of just a bunch of Excel spreadsheets that you have the joy of digging through. Those are a couple changes we have. Tonight, I just wanted to bring this before the council if there's any questions, or if there's, particularly as well as so we can schedule those additional budget work sessions.
I'm not available on April 26th.
Okay.
What was that, Carrie?
I'm not available on April 26th.
Neither am I.
So
Okay.
that doesn't mean you can't hold it, but I can tell you I'm not.
Yeah. No, I mean, I appreciate that. And if we didn't have a quorum, we'd want it. Right now, that's just kind of the overflow meeting. But if there's any others, and we can adjust that a little bit, even incorporate it into work sessions if necessary. But we do want our big presentations. One presentation I did notice after doing this, I've separated the parks from the special events. So special events will have its own. We'll have the committees come in and be able to present on that, and they're not on the schedule, but we will be plugging them in.
I think that will be very helpful, not to try to do that in one night. So thank you.
Okay, any other comments, concerns? This is a discussion or possible action if you want to move forward with the schedule.
We're
That
good.
would
I'm
just
good.
be requesting just a motion to approve the schedule.
Yep.
I move that we approve the schedule for the 2023-2024 budget process.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
and Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Okay, motion approves. We'll move forward with that schedule. I'm sure we'll have some tweaks in between that, but at least gives us an outline to follow and move forward. And I think the only thing that council probably will just look forward to is the diving in each one of these categories to make sure we're spending the money appropriately. Okay, we'll move on to item 13 on here, discussion and possible action on West Haven Elementary drop-off zone.
We have a representative from Weber School District, but I'd like to give an introduction to it. He's available if we have any questions. This has been broached a little bit before. West Haven Elementary School has an established drop-off area at the northeast side of the school. It works actually fairly well as they go through that, and that's known in part to the city helping develop some interconnections with the parking right there. However, there is a kind of a logistical challenge. They have a lot of parents who are dropping off on the south side of the school, and this is because of the location of some of the younger grades along that area. This area has a tendency to bog up, and unfortunately, with people deciding to stop and, I hate to say this, walk around, kiss Johnny and Jill, and brush their teeth before they send them out, and they're just clogging up the drop-off area there. Unfortunately, this leads to some impatient parents double parking and stopping and dropping them off in the street. We also have a proclivity of people taking U-turns out of that area and almost causing issues. And unfortunately, sometimes even, in the big trucks and that are popular in Utah, making three-point turns as they try to make a U-turn. This has raised some very serious safety concerns for the elementary school. They don't have staffing to be able to go down there and do that. We have previously striped the south side of the road to make sure people don't drop off on that side and have kids crossing that area. By and large, that seems to have been fairly effective. The school is asking for some consideration by the city. The first of all is they've asked for us to, and in working with the sheriff's office, to put signage up, making sure it's noted that U-turns are not allowed in this stretch of the road for safety concerns. The second one is to designate the area that's up on the screen there as a drop-off zone. This is allowed in our current city code. One of the things we'd want to do is there's a gate right here, as you can see this little pad, and a gate farther down here. We would want to make sure that the school closes the gate there so that the drop-off is towards the far west, so parents continue to drive through rather than stop and clog up if they want to get their kids out at the gate that's far up on the drop-off zone. If we do label that, we will need to put signage up there. That will allow the sheriff's office to further enforce that and make sure it's a drop-off zone. If we've talked about possibly having the SRO float and some of the road crew float to make sure that there's some enforcement and reminding that keep it going, it doesn't get moved. These are short-term goals and solutions for it. The larger goal is to possibly work with the school district in order to create a bump-in area where there could be a dedicated drop-off area that would get the people out of the lane of traffic, and that would require some transitioning with the city on right-of-way property. The school would dedicate right-of-way for us, and we would go in partnership with them to move the sidewalk back and create a lane where people can move in, and maybe even have some dividers or delineators there to separate that from traffic in that area. This would just allow parents and students to get a little bit farther away from the traffic. This is being used in North Ogden at Majestic Elementary. They're planning to build it. It hasn't been installed, and they were using the Safe Sidewalk grants through that we've used in past on other areas to help fund that. Estimated cost on a project that would be in the $100,000 range. If we qualified for the grant, that would be a 25% match by the city and school to go into that. We've talked with Lane, and we'd like to see if the school could help cover the costs of engineering that, and then we'd talk about splitting the costs of the match and such as we go in. That would be open for negotiations. At this time, we wanted to get some feedback from the council. If there's any concerns about designating it a loading zone area, I've went ahead and administratively ordered the no U-turn signs. It's just a safety issue. Scott's got those on order. As soon as they come up, we'll be posting those. The loading zone is a little bit different thing, and we wanted to get council insight on that. And then just if there's any indication for us to pursue. No firm commitment right now. That's something that Lane and the school district and I will have to work out as far as how something would look, and then we'd bring that back before the council before we submitted to any kind of grants or consideration in that way.
I'll tell you my experience with it. I dropped kids off there for 6 years, and that is easily one of the most dangerous places to drop a small child off at. I complained to the school several times about it. The biggest problem with this area is that parents stop, they get out of the car, and then they don't just say goodbye to their kids. They stand there and watch until the bell rings, and there's nowhere to drop kids off at that point unless you drop them off at the front of the school, and then they've got to walk around all the way around on the outside or through the older grades. And it's a great place for a drop-off zone because you have first, second, and third grade there. But it's dangerous. I almost hit a child myself once, and when that happened, that's when I started contacting the principal. I talked to the PTA president at the time because I knew the PTA was trying to help with getting parents to move along on that side. And I love to see that this is on our agenda. I know it's not the city's responsibility, but I think that if they're asking for help, then we need to maybe figure out what we can do to partner with them and make it safer for all the kids that go there. I hate that side of the school. I mean, I really do, and I'm just glad to see that something is being talked about at this point, and whether that's, you know, just changing it to an unloading zone or even red striping it. I mean, we've got to do something on that side of the school. I've seen a lot of near misses over there, and that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, council, any other comments? I'm kind of glad that it's a temporary that we're looking at. I think it would be best if they were moved off the road. Looking at the map and looking at and being over there, looking at it, it looks like they've got room to move some space over there that you know, that we could pull off, and that's, I think, would probably be ideal in the future. When it comes to grants, if we were to get a grant, would the school district cover the balance of that if we were to get that grant?
Those discussions we haven't finalized yet. We wanted to just see if the city was willing to participate in that before we finalize discussions in that way.
Does anybody have any comments or concerns with that?
I agree with Nina. Whatever we can do to assist in this situation, I think would be well worth our time and finances if necessary.
What kind of design requirements do we have for, say, the new schools that are being built? Are we ensuring that they're going to have drop-off loading zones? Or are we going to do this and then Quest Academy comes in and asks for us to partner on a grant because they have issues? How big does it get?
So this is challenging because state code allows schools to build without going through the normal approval process. Now, just this last week, we've sat in with the new elementary school, and it's something I want to reach out to their capital group because I am a little bit concerned about the drop-off zone there. I think it's sufficient, and it's larger, I think, than what West Haven Elementary has, but they're duplicating part of the issue of the loop that you drive to drop off kids are in. The parking's inside that loop, and so you still will have a bunch of kids crossing that. And West Haven, you have to have cross guards. Well, they provide teachers to come out and do that, and it's just a headache. I'd love to see them change the parking over by the bus loop, which, you know, there's limited buses, and buses can be on a little bit better heads up for students and stop and unload, and they're there for a little bit longer. But as far as design standards and transportation things, for the public schools, we don't get a lot of say on it. That's just by state code, and it's partly because they don't want cities to come in and just make it prohibitively difficult for schools to come in. And so they have a great latitude on their designs. For charter schools and private schools like that, they have to go through the process, and they should have to go through transportation impacts and everything, and that's something that we're really pushing forward for. I know we've got Quest Academy that has some issues right now, and we've actually had some discussions with UDOT, and they've thrown out some ideas since 4,000 is their road, and so the mayor and I sat in a meeting with them just yesterday, and so we're looking to take back some of those tasks and meet with Quest Academy and discuss some possible solutions. But yeah, we don't have a lot of say. This one has been, West Haven actually has seen a lot of collaboration on it with making sure their northeast drop-off area works out fairly well. But this kind of, the nice thing about this one is we won't have this happen at the new elementary on 33rd and 51st, because you don't have a backside where parents can drive up and drop off. They'll all be interfacing from 3300 South and they won't have a backside that they can sneak around and provide drop off to. So it limits where they can come in, and they've got a fairly sound design, though. I hope they'll take a little bit of constructive criticism and feedback on it.
Okay, any further comments or discussion? What would you like us to propose on this one, Matt?
I would just ask for a motion to approve designating or proceeding with designating a loading zone along 4400 South as diagrammed, and if desired, either a combined motion to allow me to have further discussions with the school district for a long-term goal, which would include grants. Those could be a combined motion or separate as the council decides.
I'll make a motion to approve designating the north side at West Haven Elementary as a drop-off zone, and then south side. I'm not from here. And then also allowing the city manager to enter into discussions regarding grants and other possibilities.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council? We'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Morse?
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon?
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab?
Aye.
Councilmember Call?
Aye.
And Councilmember Saunders?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Matt, you got your papers to move forward.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 14, action on resolution 07, 2023, change the speed limit along 2200 South from 35 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour, or to 25 miles an hour from 1900 West to 2700 West. Well, there's been lots of talk about this one and discussion. Matt, did you want to cover that one?
Yes, we've. This is one that's been discussed before, and when it was discussed the latter part of 2022, the determination was to group this with a review of all the streets. We were looking to do that as part of our streets and sidewalk initiative, which is ongoing. We've internalized that with staff and are setting that up. They got a little bit sidetracked and delayed with snow removal and the inventory work that we've done, but that's underway. However, we've received additional feedback from residents about this street, and rather than making them wait for the full one, because it seemed to have had council consensus on this before the switch to looking at an overall picture, I think it would be prudent, particularly with the reminder, to move forward with this one, change the speed on that stretch of the road from 1900 West out to 2700 West, and just to proceed in that way.
Okay. Any comments from the council on this?
That is a narrow road, so I think this is needed.
Okay. Anything else? Ready for a motion?
Move to adopt resolution 07-2023, change speed limit along 2200 South from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour from 1900 West to 2700 West.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the council on this?
I just wondered, how do we do this? How do we let the residents know? And are they just signs? Do we need to do some kind of a communication?
And so we will be planning some communication. Scott and I are going to put some, what we'd like to do is, we do have the 25 mile per hour signs very available, and we're just going to go out with some signage. We're looking at some electrical signs just to say, at this date, we're going to go ahead and change it. We figure giving a week or two notice to people, as well as posting it on social media and the website about that change in the speed limit. And I would like to go ahead and just send a mailer out to everybody who's directly on that street so that they know of the impact on that.
I think that would be very good. Thank you.
And then after that, Lieutenant Jeffries will communicate with them with a ticket.
Right.
Or a warning.
Or a ticket.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. No further discussion after that. Anything else? Okay, we'll do a roll call on this one. Councilmember Morse,
Aye.
Councilmember Schwab,
Aye.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Call,
Aye.
and Councilmember Saunders.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries, and we've got a new speed limit in our city.
Woohoo.
All right, we'll move on to item number 15, discussion, update on emergency plan. And again, our city manager will cover this for us.
I need to diversify some of my staff to do some of these reports a little bit better.
Apparently.
Sorry. Probably getting tired of hearing from me. This is a copy of our emergency operation manual that was put together. The last time it was passed was 2019. This was a 2020 draft where they started making some changes with the change of government that with the city manager being introduced into it. A major bulk of this manual, and just to let you know, this is the manual that's given out to all the department heads who are section chiefs and such, and provides information for anybody in those positions or that might have to cover for those positions for in the case of an emergency. Since we do not have a dedicated emergency manager, this has sat by and been a report on the shelf for a little bit, but is with council encouragement and direction, we went back through and started to update several parts of it. Two of the main parts that needed to be updated was the emergency operations plan, which is in your packet. We also have a continuation of operations, which still needs to be finalized, and that's how the city continues to work. So the emergency operation plan is how we respond and some of the general items to it. The continuation of operations is how the city continues to operate during this. And then the mitigation plan, which is the plan when we have an accident, where do we go, what do we have to do, and also sets out some goals for us to remedy targeted issues that might be an issue during that, whether it's flooding, earthquake, or whatnot. It's amazing how many large culverts we have in our city, and that could be compromised if there is an earthquake or other kinds of items going through here. What I've provided in the council packet is the update of the emergency operations plan and the latest version of the mitigation plan, which sets up on some goals and different determinations for considerations for projects in the near future. Most of this, one thing that is lacking in our emergency operations manual is it's not properly digitized. You look at this, it's just papers. And that's one thing as we go through, over the next 3 months, we want to get this digitized so it's online, it's on thumb drives, and it's a little bit easier and accessible for people to use and reference. One of the other things that we've recently did was update the roles and responsibilities for the EOC team. This largely relies on staff. There are roles for the council members, but generally as council members, we will look to have you plug holes in where our EOC, if people can't respond or things have compromised and things have failed. And we're a small enough organization that as you look at that assignment chart, there's openings already. And the nice thing is with the emergency operation manual, a person comes in who's willing to help and plug those holes. We pull out those forms and give it to them and say, here's your assignments. Have you get to work. And so we have the structure for an emergency operations plan and manual. I won't try to blow it up and say we've got it all in place. We've got a framework. However, we do need to plan quarterly trainings. As we've got this structure up, I'm looking to pull in and have Lisa Schwartz from the county come over and perform some EOC training and drills for us. We'll let you know when that happens, so we can pull you in if you're available, and really rely on getting that set up. A couple challenges, even when we had a part-time emergency manager, is our EOC is not not properly set up. That's generally Mount Ogden. It's actually undersized, and we really need to look at some changes there. Our ham radio is located in Dan Tanner's office. We need to look to put that where the communications will be vital and centrally located. And so there's several different things that we need to do. As we go through this and then the analysis on this, and one of the things, I didn't want to make a copy of a half a ream of paper for each of you. So my apologies that we don't have this. This is available in my office if you'd like to come look at that. And we have a couple of the drafts that I'd like to get printed with the updates that we could maybe allow you to check out and just see those and thumb through. But one of the things, for some reason in 2019, they adopted it through ordinance and it was codified, which is not a requirement and makes it so we technically would have to go through public hearings every time we wanted to change anything with this, which it could be valuable to your public, but in a lot of ways, I'd rather have a little more flexible document where if we just come in, it's a resolution, you review it, see the changes, and you can adopt it without going through a full public hearing cycle. That's one thing I would like to get taken care of in the near future. So I don't have an action for you to adopt the emergency operations plan because we've got to pull the other one out and get that taken care of.
Matt, one of the things that surprised me when I was assigned this in 2020 was the extent of the notifications in there. I mean, there were schools, there were LDS churches, there was St. Mary's, all of these people that we had contacts for that were terribly outdated. Do we still, and I'm not even sure what they were there for. I contacted some of them during COVID to see if they needed help because it was kind of uncharted territory for us. Are those needed still? Do we have to have all of those contacts in there?
Yes, and those are in the process of being updated. We've actually received contact from some of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints stakes presidents. We're getting
That
some
is
of
a
those
full-time
updated.
job, so at least yearly we would have to update those numbers because they were terribly outdated.
And one of the things I would like to have a discussion during this budget process to re-examine pursuing the Emergency Management Program Grant, the MPG. It doesn't fully fund an emergency manager position, and I think we might have some capacity to roll it in with an existing staff member, so this wouldn't be growing it, but maybe getting that funding, maybe increasing the salary just a little bit on that one, and having that person train. And so we have a dedicated emergency manager. Now, I know a lot of you might say, well, Matt, we have you. There's certain things that the city manager has responsibilities for during an emergency that will be more hands-on than what an emergency manager is. And really what an emergency manager is doing is going through and making sure everybody else is operating and taking care of things in the appropriate way and having their own binder with forms to say, track this, track this, track this. And so those are some of the things that we're looking to do. The other thing is if we could get someone dedicated, whether a really good volunteer, Ryan Saunders has sent someone out or given me contact, and I haven't reached out to them, but revitalizing our CERT program. Our records show we have over 100 people that have been CERT trained in West Haven. We need to specify someone to bird dog those, see if they're still interested, and kind of revive that framework and put them to work on a regular basis. It's great to be trained, and they're all gung-ho, and then they go, and if we don't engage with them, they fade away. And up at Summit County, our emergency manager used them for traffic control at a couple of big events. They would say, hey, come in, we're going to have a little training, wear your CERT vests, and you're going to be traffic control for this event. And just to get them all in, working their radios and doing some good things. So there's some nice and important items that often get, swept under the rug that we really need to emphasize. So I appreciate the council, giving this a prioritization, and we're committed to get it further updated and more in place for you.
Well, and another thing too is the FEMA requirements. So if you have a emergency that can be reimbursed by the federal government, it is very complex, and you have to make sure you do it right in order to, and it has to be done as you go. It's nothing that can be done after the fact. And so that would also be another thing that someone would be in charge of, is volunteers and who is it. So it is a lot more complex than it sounds.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions for Matt and his plan at this point?
I really like the idea, Matt. I'm glad you brought up the quarterly training. I think that's really important. One of the things that I was thinking about as I was reading through this is if, you know, as maybe once in a while as part of that, and maybe that this is involved in that. I just am unfamiliar, but I think it would be good to have a kind of a run through of a situation like a mock earthquake or mock flooding, so that people who are in charge of different things have a chance to run through it and actually say, okay, we need to work on this and that, and sure things up